What up, TikTok? Hey, hope everybody's having a great Friday. Hey, don't let anything that's negative in your life dictate the rest of your life. Does that make sense? Hey, we all go through some hard times. We all go through some emotional stressors, maybe at work, maybe at home, whatever it may be. Don't let that dictate who you are and how you react to the rest of the things that life throws at you. Does that make sense? Like if you're feeling pissed off and angry all morning or all day, you're going to take that energy and you're going to present it to everybody else that surrounds you, your loved ones, your soldiers, whoever it may be. You're going to use that negative energy and it's just going to make everything worse. Try to be positive. Pick something positive in life that's going really well. Use that positive energy and let that dictate the rest of your day. We can harp on the negatives. We can harp on the bad things that are going on in life. It's not going to help us. It's not going to help us move forward. Stay strong, keep pushing, drive on. Happy Friday.
What's up, Trash Talkers? Hitting you up this morning with a special promo on how to dress when you are doing PT in civilians, but you want everybody to know you're an Army. This comes from the Buddy Beckwith fashion design of how to work out. So first, you can notice the RI panties. Not Ranger panties, but Ranger Instructor panties. The green socks, the knee brace for the old guys. Don't forget the M frames. Now the shirt, don't wear the Trash Talk shirt while you're running. This is just for the promo. You want to put on like an 80-second shirt or like your favorite airborne shirt so everybody knows that you're a veteran. That's the most important thing. And you start with this stretch. Buddy Beckwith taught me this one. Ready to go.
So, I'm walking out of the gas station and my co-worker, who's an old MP, but we still claim him, and has engaged the man in conversation. Not much for conversation with strangers, but he's got the tab. So, as I walk by, I say airborne, and the man responds with, and I quote, "Hoorah." So, after I instructed my coworker to slash every single tire before he put the car in gear, I looked for the biggest rock. As I crow hop to throw it through his back window so he can stop posing as one of us, I actually wake up and realize that the man's ignorance had incapacitated me for a moment, and I was daydreaming. I mean, because in that moment you got two options. I chose the third option and said, "Incorrect. That's an incorrect response." And I kept walking. The man said nothing and he pulled away. So you tell me, what is it, a stolen valor thing? No Marine's gonna have an airborne tab, and no paratrooper's gonna say an hoorah. So you tell me, stolen valor?
Hey, y'all, going to work. I left you a note on the refrigerator. I love y'all. I'm gonna go.
Hey, go get dressed. Get ready for school.
You're doing great. Now we're just tooling around, tooling along. Shit! Bad guy! Stop!
Let me break it down Barney style.
Today's show is brought to you by the Farkas Group at the Veterans Mortgage Source. Are you looking for a team you can trust for your mortgage needs? The Farkas Group is our trusted partner on the podcast. I served with Zach, and he will definitely give you the best rate possible. Their goal is to educate veterans across the country on their earned VA home loan benefit. If you're looking to purchase or refinance your home, reach out to these guys for competitive rates or any information you may need on obtaining a VA mortgage for your property. They are licensed in multiple states. If they are not licensed in the state that you live in, they will still give you the advice that you need and the rates you should be looking for.
This is the Veteran Trash Talk Hour, hosted by Nick, Dave, Joe, and Buddy. Real warriors making fun of other real warriors. Try to not get triggered.
Talkers, how's it going, Gruntworks Nation? Here we are with the Trash Talk Hour. A little late today, no big deal. We got Dr. Daniel Gade coming on, author of Wounding Warriors, and we'll get into that later in a little bit here. But glad to have him on the show. Hopefully, sell out some of his books for him. We do pretty well with authors on this show. The Face Man Dave is not here today, and neither is Buddy. All right, so we're waiting for the Angry Colonel. Right now, his wife has him in a rear naked choke, and he's not allowed to do anything today. So hopefully he can break out of that UFC style and join us a little bit later. Buddy is taking care of his mother, so that's always okay. And Dave just decided that he's busy right now. Not quite sure what that is because he doesn't really talk on the show, and not really sure why he's dropping out because he could have came on, said hi, and left. But anyways, big shout out to our sponsors. We got Happy Place Hemp, of course. Go to Elevated Hemp Solutions and put in the code VTT25 off, get yourself a discount. And then, of course, Zach Farkas with the Veterans Mortgage Source. Yeah, I served with him. He got out as a captain, and I trust him with my life. And he'll give you free loan information. All you got to do is go on our website and hit him up. And he's not going to try to sell you. He's just going to tell you what you should be looking for. So hit up Zach Farkas at Veterans Mortgage Source. And then our favorite one, 10th Mountain Bourbon. All right, that's our that's the good one. I got a little bit of their potato vodka today mixed with lemonade. And put in the code VTT at 10th Mountain Bourbon, and you will get yourself a discount as well to the VTT community. With us is Trigger Joe, and that's about it. Like I said, hopefully the Colonel get out, but this dumpster fire only needs 2 people to get it going. So we're
doing this show with the brain children.
Exactly. So Joe, let's turn it over.
The one who birthed this experiment.
Yeah, let's turn it over to you, and let's see what you got, knowing that that Michigan's in a tight one.
Listen, I'm going to go ahead and apologize, Trash Talkers and Gruntworks Nation. This is, I know there's a lot of NFL fans out there. Okay. That doesn't exist in Detroit. It's not a big deal. Okay. Yeah. we know who the Lions are. Don't call into work. Okay. I promise you're not going to miss shit. But we got Michigan and Michigan State playing each other undefeated for the first time in 50 years. The University of Michigan put food on my plate growing up as a kid. So I'm going to obviously be invested in the game. And I promise you, if we have a show where the Packers are in the NFC Championship, you may not see the Big Earl. He understands. Michigan just kicked a field goal. They're up 33-30, by the way.
That doesn't cover, Joe.
You're still not covering.
Yeah.
But no, man, this was it was just kind of a beautiful Saturday, man, waking up. And I'll kind of include Daniel in this just so he understands that, like, transitions are throughout life. You do many of them. Anytime you try to better yourself or make another step. And I moved back to Michigan after not having a mailing address here for 17 years before I left for basic training. And today was just a beautiful day, man. I don't try to hang on to the things that were exactly the way you left when you're transitioning, because you look just as much like them as the ones you remember. Okay. You grew, they grew. Hang on to what's still there. What's still concrete. What's still here. My parents. I got to sit there with my parents, watch a Michigan State game while my mom held my 8-month-old son. Yeah, I'm 41 and I should probably get cable because I'm still having kids, but that's neither here nor there. But no, it was just a beautiful thing, man. I was just sitting there with my dad, and we're not real hug it out type of guys in the Midwest. Nick's from the Midwest, but Dad gave me a hug, said, "Hey, it's good to have you here," because we haven't watched a whole lot of Michigan State games together. It's a great rivalry. I'm thankful for it. I'm thankful for where I come from. And when you go back to where you came from, it might not look the same. But, man, hang on to the things you remember, because some things are concrete. Some things do stay, and some things do stick. So hold on to the little ones. Don't try to say, well, this picture doesn't look exactly like the Picasso when I left, so it's not the same, and I'm not going to get the same out of it. It might be better. You never know, because you can't expect family in 17 years to look exactly the way it did when you left. Joe,
have you ever heard I think it's like a Chinese proverb or something that no man ever crosses the same stream twice, because both the man and the stream have changed.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's. I mean, that's what you're talking
beautiful
about, right?
point.
You just enjoy where you are instead of trying to pretend like you're someplace that you used to be. You know.
Well, a lot of times when we transition, I feel like we're a victim of our own expectations, and man, expectations will get you burnt in the end. Prepare for it to look nothing like you thought it was, and everything else will be a pleasant surprise.
That was I'm gonna cut you off. That was a perfect example of what Buddy and I do in our fifth principle of patrolling podcast. Where intelligence meets common sense. They're not the same. All right, so it's like some people just need it explained to them. People who have the education to actually explain why that's common.
And right? Sometimes intelligence meets common sense, and then Murphy's Law comes straight down the middle, and then intelligence and common sense are arguing as to who fucked it up, when really, something just happened that screwed up both plans, and neither one of them are really going to happen. So, but yeah, no, I totally agree. Intelligence and common, street smarts and book smarts, another way of putting it in the civilian world. A lot of times you don't find people with both.
Yeah, I mean, street smarts is still an education,
exactly.
So, but the common sense is something you have to really, really try to see, because common's different in the United States. What's common in the Southeast is not common on the Northwest. All right, so you have common sense issues. That's why the same messaging across the board for any issue, like what we'll get into, doesn't work in the United States. We're too diverse, right?
And common sense usually involves seeing it from both sides.
Right,
and that's
logic.
Really hard for
logic is common sense
when they're passionate in what they believe in.
Yeah, sorry to get you derailed there a little bit, but
not really. I'm kind of freestyling it as we go, hoping Michigan hangs on to this nail biter. Just very excited that after reading the goodbye letter to the military and doing that, because that wasn't very easy. And I'm not like saying, hey, rah me, I did something hard. I'm just saying it left me kind of vulnerable. And the next guest we have writes a book on transition. And that was mainly what that letter was about. So I definitely think it feeds in. And transition is a huge part of this fight that we're in with the suicide epidemic, because
for sure
get you started down a path of setting yourself up for failure by putting these unattainable goals and these unattainable expectations. That it's like, hey man, look, you didn't fail. That just wasn't possible. You didn't know it yet. Sometimes that's the way it is. But I honestly, that mainly is the topic I wanted to talk about. I didn't really have a soapbox written down, and I really wanted to get into what you wrote about, Daniel, in your book, because, a lot of times the best guys out there, shit, me and Bill, are the best UFC pickers on the planet. They just don't know who we are yet. This may be the best book for a soldier to read in transition. It just needs more attention. So that's what we're here to do, is get some attention to the book you wrote and about the topic you wrote and the issue, because a lot of times that starts a soldier down a negative path to where he alienates himself, or it sets him up for success. It all depends on how he handles it. But if he's not prepared for it, it's definitely going to throw him for a loop, because it never really happens the way you see it happening.
Yeah, that's right.
That being said, Daniel, I'd love to
totally.
love to pass it over to you and tell us about what you did and about your
totally.
book.
So I'd love to just take a second to introduce myself, to sort of give some context to what I'm going to talk about next. And so I enlisted in the Army when I was 17. I joined the Army Reserve as a private. Back then it was a 91 Bravo medic. I guess it's a 68 whiskey or something now. But anyway, so I joined as a medic way back in 1992. I enlisted, and then a year later found out I was one of those split op reserve guys. So between junior and senior year of high school, I went to basic training. Yep. And then I found out I'd gotten into West Point. And so I was like, oh crap, I better go. And so went to West Point and graduated from there in 1997, and branched armor. My first assignment was at Fort Carson. I was in the Cav at Carson as a tank platoon leader, and then a scout platoon leader, and then went off and did other stuff for a while. And then in late 01, so after September 11th, when September 11th happened, I was actually at Ranger School. I went to Ranger School as a captain.
One of those guys.
Yeah. Well, so the true story, I'll tell you the true story. The true story is I had a slot as a lieutenant and chickened out because I didn't feel like I was trained enough or whatever. And I just regretted it for like 3 or 4 years. And then when I went back, actually was the honor grad in my class because I was like over prepared or whatever. But anyway, so September 11th happens, but I already had orders to go to Korea. So So I'm like, oh crap, I guess I missed the war. I'm going to go to Korea. And so in spring, let me see, January of 03, I take command of a tank company. So I had, 14 tanks and about, depending on attachments and stuff, I had about 100 guys working for me. And then, but again, I'm in Korea and I thought I'd totally missed the war. And the war in Iraq kicks off, of course, in March of 03. And by summer of 04, I'm getting ready to change command. I'm getting ready to go on to my next assignment, which in my case was going to be grad school, on the way to go back to teach at West Point. And then my boss and his boss, my battalion commander and the brigade commander, come to me and they're like, hey, Daniel, we're sending your soldiers to Iraq with the other brigade, because the light brigade from Korea was going from 2ID, and they needed a couple of tank companies to go with them. And so my tank company got tagged to go with them. And they were like, it's your choice whether you go or not. And I said, I literally quoted the Bible to them. I said, here, my Lord, send me. And so they did. So August of 04, I end up in Kuwait, and then September 1st-ish of 04, end up in Ramadi.
Hey, hold up, Daniel. Hold up.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, throw those pictures up while he's discussing this, because I was going to introduce him while the pictures went up. But throw those pictures up now so that people can see.
Oh, did I send you? I can't remember. Did I send you some pictures?
Yeah, I got pictures. Yeah. You sent me
cool. Okay. So, yeah, great. So I head off. I'm in Ramadi, and as a tank company commander, and I got to give away 2 of my tank platoons, and in exchange, I got 3 rifle platoons back. So I was basically a rifle company commander who got to ride a tank sometimes. And we started taking casualties immediately. It was a terrible place. My roommate, who was also my 3rd platoon leader, was killed in action on September 14th, 04. He was shot and killed. He got hit in the upper left thigh, and the medic kind of froze up, and it was kind of a mess on the battlefield. And we just didn't get him out fast enough, and he was bleeding a lot. And we didn't have air medevac at the time, and so anyway, so he didn't make it, and that was pretty miserable. And then I got wounded myself the first time on November 10th, 04. We were in this firefight. It was nighttime, and we were in this firefight, and we had killed a couple guys with the tank, and then I saw this rocket propelled grenade coming at us off the top of this mosque, and I actually saw it in flight. And in the movies, they're really slow, and in real life they're really fast, but I saw it coming right at us, and it was like a black circle surrounded by sparks, so it was coming straight, frontally, which is not great. So I ducked, and I said RPG as I ducked, and either the loader didn't hear me or he didn't have time to react, and it hit him directly in the head. It didn't hit the tank really at all. It sort of skipped off the top of the tank, but he was out of the hatch getting ready to fire the loader's 240 at these bad guys, and it killed him, instantly. And I caught some shrapnel off that, and then I was returned to duty. It was like mild wounds, but he was catastrophically instantly killed. And then and the next day, what do you do when you get hurt like that? You just go back to work.
Yep.
And so the next day I was back at it, hooking and jabbing. And I remember as we were driving across town after he'd gotten killed, before we got to the base camp, and his body was there in the tank, I remember looking over, and I could see, because of how he's sitting, I could see his wedding ring in the light of the tank on the inside. He was 21. He was married to a 19-year-old. And I remember thinking that how sad it was that I knew he was dead, but his wife and mother didn't yet know he was dead, And anyway, so they found out. The Army came to their house on Veterans Day, actually, that year. Anyway, so fast forward 2 months, I'm leading a patrol through this area where we'd had contact. We'd killed a couple guys there like 2 days before, and I'm leading patrol through this area, and I'm in the front seat of my Humvee, and it's the lead Humvee because my truck was the only one that had Blue Force Tracker. If you remember Blue Force Tracker way back then.
We were just talking about that yesterday, actually.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So I had Blue Force Tracker, so I'm leading the patrol, and I remember thinking, like, this is a dangerous place. I don't like where we're at. And this IED hits my truck, and next thing I know, I wake up on my back in the ditch. And by the time I woke up, my soldiers had already put me on a stretcher, and I could hear somebody screaming, and it turned out it was my interpreter who had been sitting behind me. And he wasn't hurt badly. He had like maybe his lower leg was broken or something. He wasn't like deathly ill or anything, but he was screaming a lot. And so I tried to crawl to him, and my soldiers pushed me down on the stretcher, and they're like, "Relax, sir, you're the only one." And I remember thinking like, "I'm the only one, what?" And then I'm like, "Oh crap, I got wounded again," you know? And so I lift my head and I look down, I could see my body armor was all blown open, but I could see my guts, but I could see my soldiers working on my legs. And I'm like, "Oh, this isn't good," you know? And I said, "Are my legs okay?" And they said, "Sir, you're going to be fine." Which, you know, everybody who's been in combat knows that means like nothing good has happened and nothing good is likely to happen. You're probably going to die if they say you're going to be fine. So they're looking at they're checking me out, and my battalion XO, who's a major, was holding my hand and talking to me, trying to keep me out of shock. And I saw my guts were blown open, and I saw my legs is where they were working, and I'm like, "Oh no, this is not good." So I said, "Hey, sir, I got to ask you something." He's like, "Yeah, anything." And I'm like, "You got to be honest." He's like, "Anything." I go, "Are my cock and balls okay?"
Yeah. Let's be real. That's what
yeah, it's real, man.
That's a real question.
He goes, "I don't know, dude. Let me check." And he goes down where my pants are all blown open. He comes back up to where my head is. He goes, "Yeah, dude, they're dusty, but they look good to me." So that was good. And then I basically passed out in the ditch. And, you know, I'll fast forward through this part, but basically, you know, got blown up on a Monday afternoon, Iraq time. And by Thursday night, I was in the States and had already had, by the time I got to the States, I'd probably already had 6 or 7 surgeries. And over the next 3 weeks, I was unconscious for the next 3 weeks and was in the intensive care unit for about 3 months total. Had surgery basically every day or every other day. And then was in was an inpatient in the hospital for another 2 months after that. So total about 5 months as an inpatient in the hospital. And a week after I got blown up, they amputated my right leg at the hip. So I'm a true hip level amputee. I don't have any femur on that side at all. And, you know, you talked about transition earlier, Joe, and I think that's right. And there are many points of transition, but that transition from the transition from combat back to training is one that a lot of people have gone through. I've never actually gone through that transition, but a lot of people have, and that's a significant transition. But when you get wounded, especially wounded seriously, the transition is like, when I was a company commander, dude, I was like, I felt godlike in my power. You know, I could within plus or minus 30 seconds, I could get, you know, 158 guys and 38 combat vehicles out the gate at you know 2:00 in the morning, and plus or minus 30 seconds, and I could go out and kill people, and then I could come back and like, I mean, I was the boss, right?
Yeah,
and come back, have a hamburger or whatever, and I was like the man, right? And then I go to being flat on my back with a skull fracture and a broken neck and an amputation, and at the time I had a colostomy bag and I couldn't lift my hands, and I mean, I'm just a mess, right? So there's that transition from like total high functioning to totally dependent on everybody else. And for me, what I had to do was like, how do I get out of that dependency on everybody else and get back to a life? And, you know, my wife and I had been married at the time 5 years, and we had a daughter she was 2, she turned 3 in the hospital with me. And so like, how do I get back to that? And I was really focused on that. And about, ultimately it was about 11 months inpatient plus outpatient where I was in the hospital. And then I went back and I was on active duty again, basically. And I got to go to grad school still and all of that. And that was great. But what I saw, and this actually is the roots of the book. And the book, again, is probably in the show notes, but it's called Wounding Warriors: How Bad Policies Making Veterans Sicker and Poorer. And what I saw in my fellow wounded warriors was that while I was trying to get better, they were focused on how much free stuff they could get. And in a sense, I understand it. Like when you get blown up or mangled or maimed, you know, like it's okay to want to go to the Super Bowl and flip the coin. I mean, all of that's good, no problem, right? Whatever. But the real problem was that I saw guys beginning to have their identities shifted from powerful, self-fulfilled, strong, mission-driven, providing for their family and protecting their community, to seeing themselves over here as like dependent and please give me and put me in the front of the line and what kind of free stuff can I get? And it bothered me, man. And I didn't really have the language or the training yet to fully understand it. So just pause that story. And then I fast forward and I go to get a master's degree in public policy. And at the end of that, I get called to work at the White House. So I go from like user level wounded warrior stuff to the highest possible level of policy stuff related to wounded warriors. And what I saw was that the reason those guys were behaving that way is because there are bad systems. There's bad policy that's put in place that incentivizes veterans to be as sick as possible. It drives guys. Maybe a guy has, and I'll just sort of jump right in here, but maybe
Chris,
a guy
you can go
has,
back. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, maybe a guy has PTSD. Maybe he has mild depression, right? The current system, when a veteran is getting ready to get out, the current system has no way of distinguishing mild depression from, PTSD. And so it'll pay you a little bit if you've got mild depression. The disability system will pay you a little bit if you've got mild depression. But if you can either, if you get worse, it'll pay you more. Or if you fake it that you're worse, or if you exaggerate your symptoms, or if you say things that aren't true, you can get paid at a higher rate. And by the way, the VA doesn't ever require you to get treatment for that condition once you get a disability payment for it. And so what you have is a system that's paying veterans to be sick and then turning around and wondering why, oh my gosh, why are all these veterans sick and disabled? Well, you're paying them to be that way instead of helping them thrive. And so the real, I mean, the end state here in the epilogue of Wounding Warriors, we talk about it, but the end state here is like, our society should have systems that help veterans become what they were before or better, instead of paying them to be separate from the society, thrown in a corner like a bunch of rusty swords, and then we feel sorry for them. And it makes my skin crawl. So
yeah, you're covering a lot of things right now that we've talked about on the show over the last 2 years about how your diagnosis doesn't define you. We say that. We also talk about just that entitled veteran to where hey, it might not sound cool. It might sound like I don't have a heart. All right, when I tell you to pony up a little bit, hey, it's like it's time to get going again. That's something that that people struggle with, and I'm glad you're talking about a lot of different things, because we also see the problem, and I've talked about this 100 times on the show, with just the English language being linear, to where we think that there is one answer for this. This equals that. So if we treat veterans like this, all of a sudden, poof, we're all better. That's not accurate. That causes us to get tunnel vision, as the infantry guy would say, and I'm not watching my whole area.
Right. It's a lot of deliberate indifference, and it's blatantly negligent. To just put us all in one category.
Yeah, and that's what I talked about before about being disenfranchised. So veterans are a minority in the United States, and right now, just because of disenfranchisement, if you're a white veteran that's wearing a hat that says Iraq War veteran, you're probably an extremist to most people that watch the news. And it's like, and there are a few veterans that are responsible for that, right? And it's like, but it doesn't speak for all of us. And the more and more that we fall into that trap of allowing that disenfranchisement is what I'll get into my book of role after you're done, and I'll explain it more. But what did you do in Washington? You said you went to Washington. What did you do there?
Yeah, so I worked at the White House, actually. I was on what's called White House Domestic Policy Council. So inside the White House staff, there's the National Security Council. Everybody's heard of that. The Domestic Policy Council does the same stuff, but for domestic policy. And so my job there was veterans and military healthcare and disability policy. And this is the end of the Bush administration. So this is 07, 08 is when I was there. Really cool job. I mean, I was active duty and I got to wear a suit every day. I didn't have to wear a uniform, and I'm in the White House and in meetings with the president occasionally and things like that. I mean, it was a phenomenally interesting job. But what I saw there was something very interesting, and a lot of veterans, and especially guys like us, and we sort of talked about this offline. Like, I'm pretty conservative, and I actually ran for office last year in Virginia. But the left, the political left and political right have screwed this up for veterans.
Bell curve. I talk about it all the time.
Yeah. And here's what it looks like. So the political left, and I'll start with them because I'm not one of them, but the political left says, hey, every veteran is a broken toy, right? They came into the military because they didn't have any other options, and they helped create empires overseas because of our imperialistic system. And so they're broken toys, and therefore they deserve everything. Right. The political right believes that every veteran who even ever looks at a uniform, whether they're a clerk typist in the Air Force or a SEAL Team 6 operator, is a hero, and so they deserve everything. And so hold that thought, right? The deserve everything thought, the political left and right agree on deserve everything. And here's the problem. The problem is there's all these interest groups, Disabled American Veterans and DFW and AMVETS and all of those, who stand there with their hands out underneath the deserve everything tree, and the deserve everything tree is raining money into their hands. And so their only goal is to get veterans compensated as much as possible, paid the highest level of disability compensation as they can, never taking into account that if you pay a veteran who is capable of work, if you pay him disability payments, it separates him from the labor market. It breaks him away from the labor market. And for men especially, what we do is how we derive our identity. That's how we begin to self-value, right? And so think about that. Now we've got a bunch of guys who are paid to be sick. They stay home. They don't need the money of work, and so they don't work. They separate from the labor market. Their friendships begin to wilt. Their relationships with their wife or significant other begin to wilt. They become self-isolating, and then 10 years from now they kill themselves, and we all wonder why. Oh my gosh, my friend Billy killed himself. I wonder why that happened. Well, here's the deal, man. The reason he killed himself is because suicide is a disease of despair, and in part, the system is paying veterans to feel despair, rather than giving them the tools.
Man, that's a great point.
Rather than giving them the tools to
perfect.
Yeah. Rather than giving them the tools to recover and to become something better than what they are in the moment.
Yeah. And the reason I kind of doubled up on that question with what did you do in Washington at the White House with Bush is, again, with the book, because again, what we learned a year and a half ago starting this company, and again, people who are watching for the first time, thanks for watching. But we started Veteran Trash Talk during COVID, and
I talked about the point you're about to make. I talked about it today, but I almost know what you're going to say.
Yeah. We're all wounded warriors on this show, and it's like when they stopped all my physical therapy and my behavioral health because of COVID. All right, like, I'm sitting there like I can pretty much get treatment where I work anytime I want. I can walk back there and say,
right.
Hey, this. But now I'm thinking, what about veterans? Like, what about veterans that are actually suffering, that are trying to make it, and they got that one appointment a month that they get, to maybe talk to a shrink. Maybe they got a cool enough shrink that gives them the phone number, right, to talk anytime, whatever. So Joe, I called Joe up and I said, hey man, I'm not doing well right now. Pretty sure a lot of veterans aren't doing well right now. And I was like, let's chat a little bit. Let's start the show. Let's start our sports pick'ems and this. And then when this took off, it's like, now we can use it for good.
That's right.
Now we can, hey, let's promote veteran owned businesses. And then all of a sudden authors started coming to us like, hey, what about can we promote my book? Hell yeah, we can. So we've had tremendous authors come on here, and that's just something that I like to do. I haven't done much of it yet, but we had Tip of the Spear, Ryan Hendrickson on, and how he's like, I just started writing down my thoughts. And if we don't write stuff down, if we don't talk about things, they're not going to get better. Right. And, some people like Joe's better at writing stuff down than talking about it. And, where some other people are just going to just, hey, I'll talk story all day long, and I don't got to write anything down. But what drove you, besides the obvious, what were the interpersonal feelings that, caused you to write the book that, that you got satisfaction out of?
Well, it's very interesting. I mean, after I was working at the White House, I went and got a PhD in policy. So I'm like a really weird, I'm a really weird dude, actually, in a lot of ways, because on the one hand, I've got like 2 Purple Hearts and 1 leg and, all these decorations or whatever, all that nonsense. And on the other hand, I'm an academic and I've got, the PhD and I've taught college and all of that stuff. And what I discovered, and I think the real reason that we wrote Wounding Warriors, and I've got a co-author who's a good dude. He's a non-military. He used to be a reporter at the Wall Street Journal, and a lot of the good prose in the book, like when a story really grabs your heart, it's his writing. But the interviews, like a lot of the interviews and the policy and the concept and the research was me, and so we're equal partners in this. But anyway, what I really became pretty horrified by was the fact that our society's views of veterans are shifting in a negative direction and rapidly.
Yep.
So 20 years ago, if you asked somebody to make a word cloud, and people used to do this, but like a word cloud of like word association, what do you think of when you think of the word veteran? It's like honor, dignity, discipline, hard work, respect, hero. And now when you do that, it's extremist. PTSD, depression,
Trump lover.
Trump lover, right? January 6th, whatever nonsense it is, but it's nothing positive, right? And we veterans did it to ourselves by allowing people to make us into
disenfranchise us.
Wards, I would say wards of the state, right? I mean, remember, I think you guys are maybe not quite old enough to remember this, but like in the mid 90s, there's this whole idea about welfare reform, and the welfare reform idea was about this idea of the welfare queen. And the welfare queen was stereotypically this woman who would have babies, and every baby she had added to her total welfare payment. And so the idea was that she would have a bunch of babies just to make her welfare payment bigger. And so there's a big welfare reform effort. Now, whether or not any of that was true, it's politics, and a lot of things aren't true in politics that we think are true. But I saw veterans beginning to go that direction, and organizations trying to help them become sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker, because those organizations and people, maybe because they get validated by it. I'll tell you a story here in a second. Or for whatever reason, there are all these groups trying to make veterans sicker. And when veterans buy into that narrative, it builds the overall overarching narrative that all veterans are worthless pieces of crap. And we're not. On average, we're better educated. On average, we're healthier. We know how to put our pants on straight and show up to work on time, all of that stuff. But what we need to do is have policies that are helping veterans thrive, rather than having policies that are making veterans worse off. Right.
How do people get your book?
Yeah, great. So I hope you'll put it in the show notes for me too as well. But it's the book's website is woundingwarriors.com. And I'll give you this. If you put in ships free, then you can get free shipping. So just put in ships free. And I'll send you a signed copy. If you order on the website, I can send you a signed copy. Otherwise, you can get it on Amazon. And if you're more of like an audiobook guy, because you like to work out while you're listening to books, you can get it on Audible. And you can like listen to my voice on Audible while you're riding your bike or whatever. Or running or whatever it is you do. So, but going back to the people and organizations who are trying to help veterans be sicker, there's this guy, he's kind of famous, and I forget his name, and I wouldn't tell you anyway, because I just hope he goes and
Charles
kicks
Barkley.
rocks. No. Yeah. We'll call him Charles. So this guy Charles is an Air Force Academy grad, like really handsome, physically fit. Like there's all these pictures of him with his wife in a bikini, and like he's like on a yacht and all this stuff. Anyway, whatever. and he was like an intel officer in the Air Force and did like half of one tour in Afghanistan as an intel officer on Bagram or something. So we're not talking about some, we're not talking about a rifleman out hooking and jabbing. We're talking about like a dude in air. No, I mean, in air conditioning every day, 12-hour shifts in air conditioning, right? That's who this guy is. So then he's like, oh no, I've got, he caught the PTSD, right? So he gets sent back home. He caught the PTSD. And by the way, I'm not, when I say something like that, I'm totally not mocking PTSD. I'm mocking people like him who are grifters. Anyway, so now he has this company, and it's kind of big, actually. It's doing very well. It's a veteran-owned small business. He advertises on Facebook and stuff, and he will help you. If you send him all your medical records, he'll help you file a bigger VA disability claim. And then the way he gets paid is whatever your increase is, he gets like 20% of the increase for 5 months or something. So he'll get basically a cut off of your VA increased benefits. And the problem is, like, there's nothing to celebrate about being more disabled, right? But there's all these Facebook groups and everything that are like, oh, congratulations, you got your 100%. And I'm like, no. We should mourn. We should mourn when the country labels a veteran 100% disabled. Because that means, in the eyes of society, he is totally worthless.
Correct.
And I just hate that with the burning heat of 1,000 suns. And I think we need to do better. And so the book Wounding Warriors is trying to expose some of that, that whole ecosystem of people who are trying to make veterans sicker and poorer. So that's what the book is about.
Yeah, that's
Dan. Daniel, I've been listening, and I've been waiting for a moment to kind of share this. But when you're a Purple Heart veteran, like I was, not like you were, because I mean, I flesh wound, soft tissue, in and out, no damage.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Different kind of Purple Heart. I think we both agree.
Well, it's like my first one.
I got the best one. I don't remember it.
Yeah, he was knocked out cold standing up.
Perfect.
Yeah. It's a funny story, but I was there to pull him out of the truck, and he was there, but he wasn't really there. When you clear the military, I was clearing, and they said they put military order of the Purple Heart on the box for me to check. So I go there. She says, come back in 2 weeks, bring me your medical records. You can get them all at Womack. I'm like, all right. Oh, cool. So I went and got my medical records, handed them to her. She sat and did work for about 15, 20 minutes and slid a piece of paper back to me. And there was 14 different conditions on there.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? And she's like, those are all the things you can get paid for based on your medical records. And I'm like, I was born with asthma.
Yeah.
Asthma's on here. I was born with it. And she was like, it doesn't matter. You can
got worse with burn.
I was like, I was still in my 20s. I'm like, I don't know. I don't necessarily know how I feel about this. I don't want to be labeled like this. And a Vietnam veteran who worked in the office pulled me aside and said, look, don't take it as a tag. Take it as your asthma is going to be treated no matter whether you have a job or not. You're basically insured for that asthma. So what they do is they tell you, like, well, okay, you got runner's knee and you're 30. Okay. When you're 55, you might need a knee replacement. Take that rating. That way, when you get the knee replacement, not only do you get paid for it, but they get another opiate addict out of that surgery.
Yeah.
So you're really hooked. Man, basically what I'm saying is I appreciate the courage to stand up and fight that fight. Especially after losing what you lost, to say, no, I'm freaking capable of more. And I think the message that I really hope that anybody watching this gets is, this man lost a leg and decided to say, I know what I'm worth and I know what I'm capable of. I just have to adjust to achieve.
Yeah.
And most veterans, that's all they need. But I'm telling you, the system is, you're behind the 8 ball to get hammered with what you're talking about, with that, hey, just say you're sick, say your shoulder's fucked up. Because what if you need surgery in 20 years? If you need it, They're going to pretend it never happened. And it's like, well, here's the misconception about it. Maybe it never fucking did.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe you just have a normal 40-year-old shoulder that worked a physical job. Maybe nothing traumatic happened. But they're encouraging you to take that rating to say, yeah, that was banged up. Or you took ibuprofen for that at Robinson Clinic on 2008. That must mean that you got a shoulder problem. And I mean, I'm telling you,
Daniel,
it's that easy.
How much do you get into in your book about the fiscal responsibility and like what Joe's talking about? When I start thinking about my biases, right? And then everybody, a lot of people don't want to admit it, but everybody's got a bias, right? About multiple things. And it's like my bias starts turning in my head when he's talking about, well, yeah, there's the opioid addiction because the money's going this way and then it's coming right back here and it's all circling, right? And they need the veteran to be, feeling sorry for himself and disabled to keep that money in that circle. How much of that do you get into?
Yeah, a lot. And if I can riff off of what Joe said just for a second, I'd appreciate it. So when I got out, it's a couple of years ago, I got out in 2017. I retired from the Army in 2017. So I was actually able, even with a hip level amputation, I was able to stay on active duty for another 12 years. Primarily because I stayed in because I didn't want the enemy to determine when I got out, and I would get out when I was good and ready, Yeah. And so I retired after 20 years of active duty as a lieutenant colonel. So when I get out, I'm 42 and I go to the VA appointments because you have to, and the guy does the same thing as he did with you, Joe. The guy is a guy for me, is this big, huge fat guy, former Marine. And he goes, hey, I listed all your conditions for it. And I'm looking at it and there's like brain injury. And I'm like, brain injury? And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, you were knocked unconscious, right? I'm like, yeah. He's like, you had a skull fracture. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, you got to put brain injury. And I'm like, dude, since I had the incident, I got a master's degree and a PhD. I've taught college for 6 years. I don't have any symptoms of a brain injury. I worked at the freaking.
What is your brain at 100%, Daniel?
Yeah, exactly.
If it was injured and you did that,
I know. Yeah. I would have been like
maybe it helped you
to the next
mind.
Actually, you owe money back because of how much that explosion helped you.
I'm Elon Musk at 50%, so I got a PhD.
I'd be like Elon. So anyway, I was like, dude, I'm not putting brain injury on there. He's like, listen, I can get you paid for it. I'm like, dude, no, we're not doing that. So then he's like, well, what about your hearing loss? What about your tinnitus? And I'm like, I don't have tinnitus. My ears don't ring. And he's like, well, listen, dude. He goes, literally, there's no test for it. You were a tanker. You were around loud things. Just put it on there and I can get you paid for it. And I'm like, man, what you don't understand. And I do write about this in the I think in the epilogue actually of Wounding Warriors, available for order on woundingwarriors.com. I'll send you a signed copy. Code ships free to knock out the shipping costs.
We got it all in the chat thread. People are on
it. Good.
Hey, Daniel, I don't remember things so well. So if you see me talking, I'm telling my mom where to get your book. I'm muting my mic.
Yeah, no worries. So what I propose to veterans, and this is where I fall out on disability ratings. I'm not against disability ratings. When I faced the choice of what I was willing to claim, what I did was I claimed things that were caused by combat. That's it. Mm-hmm. And so like the hip level amputation, I'm like, yeah, I'll claim it, whatever, I'll take the money. Right. I have my whole abdomen is all blown open. So I've got horrible scarring all over my abdomen. I have some nerve damage in my hands. My remaining leg has some nerve damage, and I claimed all of that stuff. But here's what I would ask every veteran to do. Make yourself a little mental game. Imagine going to 10 random citizens. I call this the 10 citizen test. Go to 10 random citizens and say, hey, I'm a disabled veteran. And they're going to say, thank you for your service. And you're going to say, you're welcome. And then you're going to say, I'm a disabled veteran. My conditions are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 14, 18, 28, whatever it is. And if you can do that without embarrassment, then probably it's legit.
Oh, that's a good point.
And if it's embarrassing to you, it's probably not legit, right? Or the other way it's not legit is if you're talking to some guy who's a truck driver, 50-year-old truck driver, and he's like, wait, you're getting disability for your knees? You're walking around fine. your knees are sore, but that's not a disability. My knees are sore. Well, guess what? It's a condition of aging. It's not a condition of service.
It's a
And so,
condition.
yeah, dude. And so we live in a world of gravity. We live in a world of aging. And when you're 42 or 52 or 62, your legs and knees and back and everything are not going to be the same as when you were 22. That's not the fault of the military.
Yeah,
that's the fault of aging. And to shift blame away takes you off the hook for keeping your physical fitness up and keeping your body mass down, and all of those things are going to help you have a successful physical life.
Well, not only that, but it's preparing you for what happens when you get tested.
Well, yeah. Hey, and then
yeah, that's right.
When you get pushed.
Yeah. So I got a little bit of heat for one saying that, I don't judge you for being fat. I don't judge you for having type 2 diabetes.
COVID will.
But COVID will. All right.
COVID's
going to judge the shit out of you. And out of all of this, which it always correlates to your own life because it's a story, right? It's a narrative that the right message never got put out with COVID, to where it's like the only real cure for defeating a cold virus is to be in shape, is to have an immune system, is to be somewhat healthy. You don't have to be tremendously healthy. You don't got to eat raw shit or like all that kind of stuff, but to be like you said, and once like the knee pain, right? Yeah, your knees hurt. My knees hurt. Like they already told me I need a knee replacement, but they're going to wait 20 years to do it. So I already know that 20 years, I'm going to have 20 years of pain. All right. So I better find some other way to condition myself. Like I better find a different way to stay healthy. And that's the message that should have been put out the whole time. But no, because it doesn't create the dependency that people want.
Yeah, it doesn't create the dependency, and it also doesn't make the interest groups more powerful. Because at the base, at the root level here, we have a bunch of interest groups that are more invested in having disabled veterans out there doing disabled veteran stuff than they are having veterans who are proud of their service, but who don't continue to embrace their time in the military. Like, look, I'm proud of my time in the Army. I had a great time. I did some cool stuff. I think I led my soldiers with dignity and with care and with courage. And I'm proud of all of that. But I'm not a soldier anymore. I'm not.
Yeah.
Just like I'm not a high school athlete anymore. And if I walk around and I don't, and Joe, I'm not trying to trigger you. I know you're already triggered. It's right there in the title of your thing. But like, if I walk around with like I'm a veteran shirt or whatever, that's as pathetic to me as the guy who goes, the 50-year-old who goes to the mall wearing his freaking high school letter jacket. You're not that anymore, man. What are you now? Like, what good identity, what positive identity have you formed now today? And so like for my life, I don't get to be a soldier anymore. I'm done being a soldier, but I can still be a dad. Like today, we were talking offline, but I got a chance. My buddy has a little tiny plane. I got a chance to drive an hour each way to let my sons ride in a plane because one of them says he might want to be a commercial pilot someday. So I'm helping them pursue their interests. I'm trying to be a good dad, and instead of like dwelling on my veteranness,
right.
And then 10 years from now going into the garage and killing myself.
And this applies because we have civilians that watch the show as well. And we encourage that support because, veterans are civilians, like you're saying, all right? They're living in a neighborhood to where, if a civilian now can pick up on a little bit about what we're talking about, then maybe that makes that conversation with their neighbor a little bit easier and or family member, that kind of thing. Well, you got off a little bit light because Joe turned it over to you, and we really didn't get to make fun of you. All right, so
please do make fun of me. I'm totally cool with that. It's trash. We haven't even talked any trash. It's trash.
Right. Well, again, sometimes these things get real serious, and I do like how you brought up the shirt thing, the veteran thing. So what we did for our apparel is we made shirts that were funny, that kind of make fun of that. Like,
see, I like that. That's good. I dig that.
It's a dumpster fire. Anytime you get up,
we're all a little bit effed up. And so we make fun of the fact that like we have fun with it.
We want people to see the shirt and then ask about it. right? And because that's going to create the conversation. And when you wear that "Quit Being a Triggered Pansy" shirt to a bar,
Just a
or you
black
go
shirt
into
that says "Quit being a triggered pansy."
right,
That's
and
what it
people
says.
right
That's
away,
hilarious.
people right away go with their bias about what that means, right? Like, oh, you must, yeah, I hate Biden.
If it pisses people off, then the shirt was made for them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That and people, I love that shirt, and then I always tell people because it comes from the big Earl from Ernie McCracken, right? So it's like when like everybody gets triggered. Nobody's immune to that, and it's whether or not you become a pansy afterwards. Like, there's a pansy or
Yeah. There's a time and a place for funny shirts, right?
Yeah.
And Saturday, while we're you're having a beer and you're doing a trash talk podcast, sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But when you wear that to work,
Oh,
and people are like, wait, what? Wait, what? I'm sorry, sir, this is McDonald's or whatever. Like that doesn't work, and it colors it's forcing people to view you in a certain way,
Right.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here and probably cause some people some real heart attacks. I'm not a big fan of service dogs for PTSD, and here's why.
Do you feel like
sends
it's a lot of, hey,
message
look at
to
me?
people? Well, possibly, Joe. Yeah. So it sends two messages. Number one is for the veteran who has some mental health condition, which of course should be treated. Of course, we should, get that person, experimental treatment or stellate ganglion blocker or ayahuasca or regular SSRIs or more exercise or whatever it is, counseling. Let's get people better for sure. But if a guy gets a service dog for PTSD, what he's doing is, for the 10 or 12 years that dog is alive, every time he brushes it, every time he gives it some water, every time he puts it out to go potty, whatever, he's reminded, oh yeah, that's my service dog. I have PTSD. So it's shifting his identity. It's making him adopt the sick role. It's like imagine a woman or a man for that matter, who has been a victim of a sexual assault, and they wear a shirt that says raped, right? Well, what does it do? It reminds you that you're a victim, right? That's part one. And the other reason I don't like it is what you were talking about, Joe. It's the look at me thing. It's everybody who looks at that veteran, they look at him and they count his arms, they count his legs, and they count his eyes, and they're like, what do you have a service dog for?
Something
and then
between
says,
your ears is not right.
Yes.
And they're not going to take you seriously.
It sends a sign to everybody who looks at the person, don't take me seriously. I'm just mentally ill. And so it's a way of, it brands that veteran in the eyes of the observer as not trustworthy, not whatever, when in fact, PTSD is not, it's a condition that doesn't affect, it doesn't make people violent. It doesn't make people untrustworthy. There are some symptoms associated with it that are manageable. It's not a death sentence, and it's not
uncomfortable.
One of our first sponsors was a veteran, and it's a veteran-owned company with Muscle Activation, and he talks about that with PTSD is very similar to a TBI, to where you recover from it, but there's certain things that will, when you get triggered, right, whatever it is, whether it's tinnitus, whether it's loud noises, whatever bright flashes, right, your brain goes to that, right? So if there's anything that you can do to fix that muscle memory, right, if there's anything you can do to help recover that or to go forward. Now, to put it in a perspective for some people, like the service dog, and right, people get triggered when you talk about that right away, because again, they're not going to listen. Their bias is already taken over. Because service dogs are a wonderful thing, right? And I know when I was a first sergeant, I had a company dog, and I couldn't find anything in the rules that says you couldn't have one, right? And I researched everything, and this dog lived there. And there was a significant difference after that dog, even with the soldiers. The soldiers started coming up and signing it out for the weekends, right? Like, and then
that's hilarious. That's a great idea. I had a dog.
As much as I hate to compliment this guy because I've been friends with him for 20 years, that one was fucking brilliant. It really is.
We had a company
doesn't love
dog
a
until
dog?
it bit somebody, and then I had to get rid of it.
Right. So when I started yelling at a soldier or something like that, or raising my voice a little bit, that dog would come in and the whole room would change. Right. Everybody all of a sudden was like, "What's up, Shug?" We call it Shug Night, and so like we're like, "What's up, Shug?" And like, but just that. But again, we're crossing that line, that threshold again of where we try to coach each other out of it, and it's not being a hypocrite. I say it all the time on the show. When I tell you to stop being a triggered pansy, all right, I'm not being a hypocrite because I become a triggered pansy sometimes. I'm just letting you know right now you're being one, right? And so, like, if I see you walking around with this dog in Walmart, all right, I'm thinking, do you really need to be walking around with this dog in Walmart right now? Like, do you really need to be? And maybe you do. Maybe you do.
Not all the time.
I'm just saying, maybe you do, and that's okay. I'm pretty sure that's not what Daniel's saying. All right. But what we're saying is
that's right.
If it causes you to not progress, right? If it causes you to not get better, to change that mindset that, Carol Dweck talks about with, the mindset, right? Like if that kind of thing, then you're not helping the entire veteran community. Because again, we are disenfranchised. The minute you do something stupid,
I got a caveat off this dog.
We're all in the same boat now. We're all in the same boat as you, right? But selfish people will never learn. They'll never learn that. No matter how many times you tell it or try to beat it.
A dog can help you get better, or it can trap you in being worse.
There it is. You allow it to do. Yeah.
My concern is that I feel like a lot of times it traps people in being worse and being viewed as worse instead of helping them be better.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for both points here. Let me. All right.
Are they?
Well, while they're doing that, I'm going to caveat off what Daniel said. All of what we just said was beautiful and great. That being said, there is a service dog establishment right by where I work in Michigan, and I moved back. Okay. I'm completely qualified to get one, obviously.
Right.
But here is what I want to do. I went there, no joke, last week. I went there just to see what they were about. And I said, can you get me a dog who's been to war? I want that dog. I want to give him a home. I want him to stay at my place. I don't want to take him to the fucking grocery store. I don't want to take him to the gas station. If I want to take him for a ride, that's nobody's business. I just want him to be my dog. But I want to, if I can get my hands on a dog that was a veteran, that's what I want.
Hey, Joe,
I waited my dog, I had a pit that was a rescue. He was beautiful. He was fantastic. Got hit by a car. It was one of the top 3 most traumatic days of my life. I haven't had a dog since. I now have the room and the space for a dog. So I thought, what better to do than get a dog that was a police canine or a bomb dog, or somebody that's a dog that's seen some stress, because knowing that, hey, this dog might be a little sensitive, it's been around some shit, will reel me in when I'm feeling that way. And I'm not talking about taking him to Walmart so everybody can look at me. I'm talking about just having him as my dog and letting him spend his last few years with somebody that fucking gets it.
Yeah. Hey,
so that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Joe, let me tell the conversation. Let me tell the conversation another way with the comments on the Facebook page. It's like somebody like so wrong on so many levels for PTSD. And again, in your world, in your narrative, that might be true.
Daniel, the fight that you're in is pushing a rope uphill. It's not going to always be a popular opinion.
Now, wait, Joe. When we have discussions, all right, and this is what, sometimes the common sense people don't understand, but the logical, educated people do. All right. So, and then if you can mix it together, you have the best conversation ever. So, because of his points, doesn't make him right in your world. Okay. All right. But it also brings a different point, a different perspective. And if you just immediately cancel culture it, all right, because you don't like it, then we learn nothing. All right. We learn nothing whatsoever. And that's what I was going to get into with the Book of Earl. And like I said, he keeps avoiding the trash talk a little bit here. But if we go back to the start of the show, right, he made some incriminating comments about, one, he was a tanker. Okay. So like we all know that, especially if you talk to the ring knockers, right, that he probably didn't score too well All right. So that's why we know that the in his tests, because those guys go infantry. All right. The ones that score higher. And then, he avoided Ranger School because who doesn't avoid Ranger School, right?
Oh, I checked it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll
like
admit it.
it's very difficult. And it brought me back to when I was an RI, and I was like, I'd always ask, hey, what rank are you? Right. And I'd ask the guy that, or girl now, because I'm going to grade you subjectively. Right. I'm going to, especially in the Florida phase. I graded.
When were you in RI?
2013 to 16.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I went through a long time before that. I went through when it was hard.
Yeah, when it was hard. Yeah. Were there 4 phases then? Because that's the next guy.
No,
comment.
not that hard.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
Those guys are really hard.
Then you'll get those comments. I asked you because, and then this is what I had to tell younger RIs that just got there. I was like, hey, do you know doctrine? And they'll be like, kind of. I'm like, don't say a fucking word till you do. All right. Like, all you do is grade off the curriculum, off the rubric. I was like, until you actually get into the doctrine and you can give an AAR based off of doctrine, right? Not off of what you think, not off of what you say, because I go, there's going to be some captain that comes here, right? And you're that captain that's maybe out of the career course and get the slot or whatever. And you got the freshest doctrine taught to you at the career course. So when you come to, that actually has to change the POI and Ranger School sometimes. We be teaching something, and like a lot of the captains would come up like, hey, Sarn, that's not how it goes anymore. And we're like, what? They're like, yeah, that.
Oh no.
Yeah, that changed. But like, we don't care. I'll bring the whole group back in. Like, hey, we're teaching the POI off of this. Okay. Anybody else learning this? Like in TT Lodak, right? Is anybody else learning that? They're all raising their hand. Yeah, we're all learning that. So we're like, okay, scratch that. Okay. And then like somebody come up here and teach the RIs TT Lodak. Right. And now we're learning. Right. And it's a minor hiccup, and we're all going along. And the bottom line is can you lead people in an austerious environment, hungry and tired? All right. Can you do the right thing?
Can we go back? I'd really love to go back to those Facebook comments. I'm not on your Facebook page right now.
I'm commenting back to her right now, Daniel, on your behalf, saying why, Judy. Explain what is wrong about this. What is wrong about challenging veterans to get contested to reach their potential? That's
exactly.
I want to know why it's so wrong.
So we have a couple of chapters in Wounding Warriors actually about PTSD specifically.
Yeah.
And recall though the history of PTSD is as follows, basically as a diagnosis. PTSD is not a condition. It doesn't exist. PTSD is a label for a basket of conditions of a wide variety. So you've got over here, you've got things like depression, hyperactivity, startle responses, things like that. And so as we're interviewing for this book, we interviewed dozens of clinicians who are seeing PTSD every single day. And the veterans who have PTSD need to get treated. They can and will get better if they're treated properly. The problem is that the system encourages people to embrace their sickest selves and then get stuck in that sick role forever. So in 2021, this year, there was a paper that came out. It's an academic paper. You probably won't ever see it. It's in the Journal of Behavioral Health, I think. And what they did was there's all these treatments for PTSD. There's things like stellate ganglion blockers, which is like a nerve injection. There's some innovative stuff with MDMA and DMT, which are psychedelics. There's some cool stuff with even SSRIs, regular like Zoloft and stuff like that. There's certain use cases where that makes sense. But what they discovered as they're doing clinical trials for all of this stuff is that veterans are not a good group to try clinical trials on. And the specific reason why they're not a good group is because they're paid to be sick. And they're never going to get better because they're paid to be sick. So even
kind of like the labor shortage right now.
Exactly. It's precisely the same problem.
Yeah.
So even people who have been victims of like long-term chronic sexual assault, right? People, let's say somebody whose father is abusing her for a decade or more. Those people can and do get better from their PTSD, but veterans don't, because we pay them not to. And we talk about it in Wounding Warriors. And read the book, Jim Mattis, who's no triggered ninny, he says it's
Well,
a
he gets
must
triggered
read for anybody
sometimes.
who
He got-
cares
he
about
got
veterans or
triggered.
their families.
He got triggered last year, actually. But
Yeah, he didn't. Yeah, he got
Oh,
triggered at the end
nice.
of Donald Trump. He didn't like the Syrian withdrawal stuff. But
yeah.
anyway,
I like you're exactly right. And then like even like with the way Joe's commenting back on the page, it's like again, let her talk too. Like maybe she has something to bring in. But what people have to understand, and to your point, is it's okay to disagree. Like it's okay. Like that is literally what creates. I mean, that's what builds creativity. Is if we all thought the same way, we wouldn't learn shit. Right? We'd all of a sudden all just become, whatever. And so I'll get into a little bit of my book of Earl here, which would behoove all of you to listen. Now, remember, we have all of the safety brief flying clothing up too as a joke. So let me caveat off that. It would behoove you.
Behoove you to listen.
Behoove you to listen. Now, I got a little triggered. All right, and I did this week. I didn't become a pansy. I just had fun with it on Twitter. All right, so I was going after WTF moments on Twitter a little bit. Because that's a great page that serves a great purpose, and they started for suicide as well, and that was one of their main focuses, and it's evolved and gotten bigger. But I have this conversation and I make these points just to see how many people can get triggered and absolutely not have a discussion. All it turns into just bashing, and you must be this kind of guy, you must be that kind of guy. So there was a cell phone conversation that said the sergeant major is making us sleep in the rain, and we're not allowed to sleep under the pavilion. Right? Now, there's obviously more to that than just the screenshot. Okay, so we get to make up our own story in our own heads of what that conversation was like. So I make it up as you're an artilleryman, you're on the gun line. All right, Sergeant Major says you'll sleep on the gun line, because that's where you're supposed to, right? Do you want the sergeant major on the gun line? Probably not, because he's just going to get in the way, just like a lieutenant colonel, right?
Keep
like
the brass pushed back.
You come and you say hi. You make sure that your plan is going somewhat the way you want it to do, right? Because it's never going to go the way you actually want it to.
And then you get the heck out of there.
You get the hell out of there. Right. And guess what? If a colonel or a sergeant major goes to sleep in a bed, all right, there's a good chance that he spent more time on the ground under the rain than you have at this point in your career. All right. There's a good chance at that, especially in combat arms. And not saying that the rank doesn't entitle them to a nicer sleeping arrangement, but I guarantee you what they got going on the next day is a lot more than waking up, eating chow, doing a little bit of PT, and then putting rounds down range. Okay. Like I want my colonel rested. Okay. I want the guy who's going to put me in fucking harm's way to have a good night's sleep. Okay. Because I don't want him making a dumb decision. And I definitely want the sergeant major, especially if he's a bad one, right? I want him out of my hair. Like, I don't want you anywhere. Your job is to go into that colonel's office and tell him that you're either pushing us too hard, or you're not pushing us hard enough, or yada, yada, yada. You're the guy. You're the guy that tells the colonel, yeah, boys, right? They're going to do it, right? Like, whatever. So again, I go after WTF moments because we're getting to that problem, which kind of what Daniel's talking about, of disenfranchising people once again. Why can't I have the opinion that maybe a smaller, more lethal army is better? Right? Why do we have to retain everybody? Okay, why do I have to try to keep this guy in? Right? If this guy doesn't like the army, if he doesn't want to buy into the principles of closing within and destroying other people's lives, then why do I have to try to retain him? All right? Why do I have to, be nice to him? Right? I should always be nice to people. And this is what I keep saying. Like, the army, the DOD does not have an extremist problem. All right. The DOD has policies for a couple of decades now that don't allow you to be racist. Okay. Like that's not their problem. All right. The problem is society. All right. Society brings racists into the army. And if we're not allowed to be hard, if we're not allowed to break that out of you, then you're going to thrive in the army. Because, this leader was too embarrassed to say anything to you because they didn't want to get in trouble. They didn't want to be on WTF moments when you're a shithead, right? And we should have kicked you out a long time ago. But here we have that problem to where, she's responding. I'll get to it in a second. Like, which is fine, Judy. I want you to respond. All right, I want you to remember.
Yeah, so do I, of course.
The conversation is great,
Well,
whether you're right or
she
wrong.
responded.
Yeah.
I know veterans who don't get paid or can't get treated for PTSD. Mine is due to being abused. Even with therapy and medicine to help, there are still triggers. Same with my veteran friends.
And Judy, I'm going to agree with you there. All right, I'm going to agree with you.
It doesn't pigeonhole you into being a disabled person who can't contribute. Is
right.
all we're saying.
That was the point. Now your bias
Use it as gasoline.
And it happens to all of us, Judy. We're not hypocrites. All right. It happens to me, happens to Joe. All right. Happens to Daniel. I start hearing something, my biases start spinning. Like, right. And right away, you're missing the point of what someone's trying to say. And now it's his fault because he didn't deliver it the right way. Okay. That's not true. Okay. We deliver it whatever freaking way we want. All right. If you don't like what we have to say, like if it's on Facebook, just keep scrolling. All right. But you're absolutely right, Judy, that there are those triggers, and medicine's not the answer. All right. Pills are not the answer. And I also wanted to bring that up because we are sponsored by Happy Place Hemp. I'm not telling you to go out and smoke a bunch of weed either. All right. I think that's a bad idea. I do. All right. However, if smoking a joint helps your pain and keeps you active during the day, as opposed to taking an opioid that just knocks your ass out for 12 hours, right? Probably a good solution, right? Probably is going to help you. And that's what we always say. Find something that makes you productive, right? If it doesn't make you productive, then stop doing it, right? And the best friend that you have in this world is the one that tells you when you're not being productive. It isn't the friend that gives you another drink. It isn't the friend that, tells you, hey, go get more ratings for that. Oh, you can get paid more for that, right? Now, nobody here said that you shouldn't get ratings. Nobody here said that PTSD, all right, isn't something that we should work on. But again, I've said this stat before, people with the highest PTSD are women with childbirth, right? That is the highest form of PTSD in the world, okay? And to ignore it is stupid, all right? Remember, the bell curve, the far left and the far right. To say it's stupid and we shouldn't pay any attention to it is bad, all right? To say that it stops you from doing anything to being productive, that's bad too, all right?
Yeah, that's bad too.
Yeah, you
That's
come
right.
in the middle, all right? You come in the middle and say, you know
Bell
what?
curve.
The bell curve is interesting. I know Perry gets mad because you can't see it on the audio podcast, right? But like in the middle, there's someone saying, you know what? I lose my temper real quick now, all right? And I never used to do that. Okay. And whenever that tinnitus gets going, I know that I'm going to be real irritable. Okay. So these things. All right. These are constants. These are things that are real. So those are your triggers. Okay. Acknowledge them. All right. Find ways to use them for productivity. Right. And I told Joe this, we were having one of our conversations about, being stressed out, and everybody's like, how do you do so much? And I was like, well, actually, when I feel my PTSD kicking in, all right, when I feel whatever anxiety I'm about to get, I literally go do stuff for VTT. I go read a book. I go do stuff for my college. Like, I occupy my mind.
It's a very simple therapy.
Right.
Knock something off your list, even if it's something small. In that moment, you'll feel better when it's over.
Right. And so the whole point of Veteran Trash Talk is to create a community, a diverse community to save lives. Right? And so, Judy, you're not wrong. Okay. And Daniel might not be pitching it the right way to you for you to agree, which is fine. Okay. And then who knows? Maybe Daniel's like, maybe I got to voice it a different way to reach that audience. All right. And then that comes with, that cultivating a narrative change. The only way you're going to be able to do that is to understand your audience's story. All right. And if you understand the audience's story, now you can find a way to relate to them. Well, Judy, he doesn't know you. All right. I don't know you either, but you're not wrong either. Okay.
Yeah.
But
can I just say?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I think what we have here is every person has like 28 different identities, and for me, I'm a Christian and I'm a father and I'm a husband and I'm a amputee and I'm a college professor and I'm a this and I'm a that and whatever, and I'm somewhere in there, I'm a veteran, right? my suggestion to people is to rank order your identities and live in the identities that are positive, and try to avoid living in the identities that are negative. And sometimes you'll dip a toe into a negative identity. So if your negative identity is PTSD sufferer, go there when you have to, and then get the heck out of it and go into something positive as soon as you can, instead of making that your predominant, like, overarching life narrative identity, because that's not a good one.
Daniel, can I caveat off that?
Of course.
To address Judy, because we do care, and there is no sarcasm in what we say, Judy, if you're watching. What Daniel's saying is, and that's one thing I love, is he's saying, I can't just call him an amputee. He's a father too. I can't just call him a father. He lost a leg also. I can't just call him this. He was also a veteran. He's many things. So what he's saying is if you can't find that one thing that brings you joy, maybe a dog is the right thing for people like that. When everything in front of you seems negative and you feel alone, you feel this and you feel that, yeah, that's the time to reach out. That's the time to throw up a Hail Mary. That's the time to talk to anybody that you need to find that positive reinforcement. And maybe a dog for those people is the right thing. You know, when they don't have the blessings that I have with two beautiful baby boys and a beautiful girl and a great wife and a job and family. Like, if you don't have all those things, maybe the next tool is still out there, but it doesn't mean it has to be over.
Yeah, I thought of a couple songs actually, which is rare for me because I don't really like. I don't usually get emotional with music, but there are a couple ones that when you were talking about your gunner that died, you know, and then how he was 20 and had a 19-year-old wife, right?
Yeah.
I thought about Dropkick
Dennis
Murphys.
Miller from LaSalle, Michigan. I always try to say their names, right?
Yeah. Hey, if you want to come on our Memorial Day special, we do it every year where we invite people to come on, hop on anytime they want, and say a buddy's name. Right. Cool. And then that lives on.
It's a good day of the year to have a tear in the beer session and remember your brother.
But there's a Dropkick Murphys song called Fields of France. All right. So if you're ever in a sad mood and you want to cry a little bit, you know, about combat, go ahead and put that song on. Right. It's about him walking around the fields of France in World War I, and he stops by a graveside, you know, and there's a 19-year-old kid, you know, and he's like, can I sit by you for a minute?
You know what? That's not Dropkick Murphys. That's older than that. It's much older.
Well, they redid it. I listened to Dropkick Murphys.
Dude.
One. Yeah.
How do you do, young Willie McBride?
Yes,
do you mind
exactly.
if I sit here down by a graveside?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a song.
Who's that? Who's the original?
Yeah, who's the original? Because I'm a millennial.
The one I always oh no, I'll have to get back to you. Sorry.
We'll look it up. Hey, Chris, hey, producer, look that shit up. You got like 7 computers that you're playing World of Warcraft on right now. Maybe he'll put it in the thread for us. And then there's the other one. I kind of now I lost my train of thought. It's a TBI. But no, to like what Judy was saying. And remember, because you didn't listen because of your bias, which is fine. We all do it. All right. And what I was saying about building a diverse community, because right now, Judy, what you just said, all right, there's probably 60 or 70 people that probably agree with you right now in our community. Maybe even 5,000, maybe even 10,000. There's 34,000 people there. There's 600,000 in Gruntworks. Okay. So you're going to have people that agree with you. And that's great because you're not necessarily wrong. But like I said, what Daniel's saying is you can't just say it's PTSD. What exactly about it is PTSD? Is it anxiety? All right. Is it depression?
PTSD is actually very similar to a fingerprint. Okay.
Right.
So there's hit the same way
there's
twice.
things that trigger it. Right. And so, you know, it bothers me as a warfighter.
Bogle, by the way, sang the Green Fields of France.
Who was it?
It says Eric Bogle.
Eric Bogle. Okay, yeah.
There's a bunch of people who've sung it. I'm Googling it right now. There's
a
lot of people.
We're not talking about the karaoke people, Daniel.
1970, written by Eric Bogle. Vogel. Yeah, you're a
like I said it the first time.
Muffin fingers back there. Well, all right. So
muffin fingers. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, he's a
Likes
cook.
to bake.
He's a baker. We used to call him the baker. Like it was
Yeah, we used to
mom-
call him the baker when he had a cool Sopranos name. You told people to go see the baker. He
Go
runs
see
the
the
numbers
baker.
for us. Don't talk bad about the baker, but
Now this has been a tremendous conversation again. And if you're not ruffling feathers, okay, then you're not having a real conversation. And I can. One of the hardest things to do, and I'll brag about myself. Joe loves when I do this. I'll brag about myself a little bit. All right, I have spent a long time in my life because I identified a weakness in my life. All right, my biases caused me to be extremely unempathetic.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and because I'm sitting there like, man, well, fuck you, I can do it. Why don't you do it? Right. And I went to Ranger School. Why didn't you go to Ranger School? All right. I went to Pathfinder. They told me to go to Jump Master School, Jump Master. They told me to go to Pathfinder School, Pathfinder School. Like, what's your fucking problem? Right. Like, so what I had to do is I had to take a step out, and I do it I try to do it every day. It's still a work in progress. Right. You're never going to master your flaws. You can just try your hardest to make them not as significant. All right. And one of my flaws, again, is not being empathetic. So I take out as much emotion as I can now, right? I try to see it for how you're saying it. And then I try to understand your story. Okay. That's a skill you have to work at. And then it also makes you look like an asshole sometimes because I'm sitting here saying, hey, chill for a second. All right. Let the person finish. All right. I want to hear what they're saying. And I started learning this from a quote from Benjamin Franklin. In one of the first Continental Congresses where they were arguing over some stuff and Ben was just sitting there quiet. And Madison went to him and said, you got to say something here. He goes, no, I don't. He said, they're both right. He's like, but they're doing the political thing here. Right now, they're just being loud so people can say that they're doing their job. Right. He's like, but they're both not wrong. So like that resonated with me when I read that to where it's like, it's okay. Like some people are putting on a front. All right. Some people are trying to be heard. Right. And then there's some people who are just arguing to hear themselves. Right. And so you're muted. You're muted. Yeah.
I was talking to my wife. I had to be muted.
Yeah. We can wrap this up soon if you guys got to go. But again, hey, Judy, thanks for your comments. All right. Thanks for watching. And then Wes commented, said, hey, I really needed this today, and I'm glad I stuck around. And that's what we say to all of our guests.
And I'm glad I did it, Wes. Thank you.
And I really appreciate you, Daniel, coming out with your story and talking about it because, like we always tell all of our guests, it's like, even though if we have one viewer watching, which is hardly ever the case, usually when Joe starts talking, it happens. But no, actually, he picks up a lot of viewers. But if we save one person today, if one person has a better freaking day because of this show, then it's a success. Like we did our
therapeutic for me,
right.
And I feel blessed that we got to sit and listen to Daniel's story.
Yeah, this is
Daniel. I mean, strap in, buddy, because you ain't getting rid of me.
Yeah, no, this is fun.
Friend request you. We're going to talk a bit.
Yeah,
heck yeah, let's do it.
So we lost a friend who got triggered in your circle. I'm not going to mention the name because it'd be rude to mention the name because they wanted us to get political. And I talked about it a few shows ago. I'm like, we just don't do that on our page. All right. It's a whole system problem. Like we talked about before. It's not just PTSD. It's not just the VA. It's not, jobs. It's not alcohol. It's not opioid. It's all of those things. All right. So that no one person can target all of the problems with veteran suicide. It's impossible. All right. However, there are multiple avenues where we hope that one day with Veteran Trash Talk, that when you come on the page and say something, somebody in that group over there is going to help you. All right. Somebody in that group over there is going to point you in the right direction. And we always say, you're the one that has to get the demon out, and you're the one that has to be honest about making it better. Right. And if you do that, we have a whole community built now that'll help that. All right. And so, like I said, we lost a friend of the community because they wanted us to get political about the Marine lieutenant colonel.
Right.
And I'm like, I'm sorry, we just don't do that. Like there are people for that. There are pages for that. There are movements for that. There's lobbies.
It wasn't a woman who was a friend, was it?
And like I said, I'm not gonna get into it because I don't have any disrespect for that. I don't want to trash anybody or anything like that. And we really appreciate what that person. Yeah, you're pretty much on point there. But I appreciate what that person's doing, right? I really do. And they got really mad, and it was late at night, so I have a feeling there's a couple cocktails involved. But they got really mad that we wouldn't do it on our page.
Yeah,
I was like, our page isn't for that, and I apologize. I was like, but you can come on the show and scream to which you're going to have a bigger audience. Actually, you're going to reach about 6,000 or 7,000 people. Come out here and scream all you want, and we're going to have fun with it. All right, like that's the point of this show. All right, but the page is for us to get on there and say, you know what, I'm not having a good friggin' day right now. All right, and then somebody's going to be like. Or I love it when like, hey, I need a job in Kansas. Right? Hey, we got anybody that knows anybody in Kansas? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. All right. Like, but now we do. We got people all over the world now. Right. And like people ordering shirts in England and Australia and Canada. And yeah, like they're all on the same team, man. So it's like, remember what our mission is. Our end state is the same as Daniel's. It's the same as a lobbyist. Or at the end,
it's better than thriving. It's better than thriving. It should be better than thriving.
Exactly. We want to.
We love each other. We love each other after service, just like we did during service.
Yeah. And my favorite thing is when we make a connection. Right. And we've had a couple people like now want to come on the show when another guest is on because they want to meet that person, and then they're like, oh, are you really having this guy? And it's like, yeah, can I get on this? So we had a guy who runs a scuba diving thing for Wounded Warrior, that's just veterans in Honduras. And we also had Lino on, who with the Scuba Foundation, we had him on like a couple months prior. So the Special Forces Scuba Foundation. So we brought him on as a guest host to where it's like, hey, you guys meet. And now Lino's going down there, right? And they're gonna do a great thing. And it might not benefit me at all whatsoever, but it's going to benefit some veterans, right? And that's all that matters. I'll get mine in the end, right? Somebody's going to help me from this page, right? Somebody will, right? And I'm not looking for it or asking for it, but that's the whole point of a community, all right? Yeah. And in a community, we're not all the same. And like I keep saying to Judy, like, hey, we love you, all right? And we love your opinion. I don't have to agree with it. All right. And you don't have to agree with the way Daniel said it, but if you're not listening to it to where he's not saying that we should just, fuck everybody with PTSD. He didn't say that at all. Right. At all. But the bias will tend you to just trigger that way to where it's like, this guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. All right. Maybe not in your world, and that's fine.
My suggestion would be read the book and see it through the eyes, read the book Wounding Warriors and see it through the eyes of those people. And Judy, if you DM me on Facebook, I'll send you a free one. And if you like it, pay for it. If you don't like it, send it back.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good thing. So yeah, we're getting a lot of people commenting again, which is awesome. This is one of our most interactive ones. Like you predicted. You said you ruffled some feathers today.
Sorry, I stirred them up.
No, that's fine. Again, change comes from when the threshold gets crossed, and then the fear is not as big as the outcome. So like if we can change, and I wrote a paper with this based off of Rocky IV, right? Well, if I can change, you can change. All right. Like we all can get better. And the only way you're going to get better is to drop your biases. Right. And that's extremely hard to do because, man, just go to a family party and say something and watch how many people turn on you. All right. Real quick. All right. And if they're going to turn on you, how easy is it for somebody who doesn't love you to turn on you? All right. It's like, it's that simple. But yeah, long show. It was a good one. Too bad the angry Colonel couldn't make it. That would have been fun to have him on here. He's another ring knocker, another West Point. I don't know if you know Rob Robinson.
What year did he graduate?
Oh, probably pretty close to you. I think he just got out.
Black? Is Rob Black?
Yeah.
Oh, he's my classmate. I know him.
Was he really?
Yeah, we're classmates.
He was supposed to come on. So
that's hilarious. I didn't know he was part of this deal.
Oh, he's all about it. He releases the Roundtable Football on Tuesdays on our platform. for
that's
talking about.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
talking
tell Rob I said what's up. Connect us by email.
He's probably watching. If his wife's letting him have his phone on. So that's too bad he couldn't make it. That'd have been cool. See ya. But yeah, he's a big help with our industry as well. With Veteran Trash Talk, he comes on and gives us a lot of guests. Gets us linked up with people that we can, make a difference with. So again, go to Wounding Warriors, and I love that title because you think of Wounded Warrior right away, but it's Wounding Warriors, and
it's about how the system is making veterans sicker and poorer. Not how veterans themselves aren't necessarily doing it; it's the system that's doing it. So read the book, read the reviews. You can read a chapter, actually you can read 3 chapters on the website, and then decide whether you want to order it or not. I'd love to send you a copy.
Yeah, for sure. I'm definitely going to order. I know my wife will probably want it too. So we'll get on there.
I'll trade you for a dumpster fire.
A dumpster fire shirt? T-shirt. Yeah. Okay. I don't know. Ours is pretty expensive. No, that's not at all. That's another shit. I'm gonna get this out before we get started. Hey, look, in case you haven't heard the Let's Go Brandon chants, and you haven't looked on any maps about where all the shipping containers are, right now, it's made in America, but again, some of the shirts, some of the product is shipped from overseas, and then it gets made in America, right? Like that's just the way global, capitalism works. All right. And we'd love to make the shirt with all American product itself, but then you'd have to pay $50. Okay. And that's just, nobody buys the shirts for $19. So whatever. It takes some time, guys. All right. So when you order a shirt now, don't get triggered when it's not there in 2 weeks, because there's a lot of ships right now waiting to get in port. All right. And a lot of those have some of the material that we need. That's just a disclaimer. But hey, visit our website, veterantrashtalk.com. It has the link to all of our sponsors. Now, remember, our sponsors are buying into the mission. Why? Because they get to say, hey, we're a part of that. Okay. They get to use our awesome community to be like, yeah, that we don't want veteran suicide either. They've bought into that. All right. And they give you guys discounts. All right. Because of the community. So go on there, and if you do drink alcohol, man, try some 10th Mountain stuff out. All right. And if you do need a loan, go check out Zach Farkas. He's a veteran. And if you want to get off opioids, we're not the doctors. Don't do it because we told you to. All right. Like who do we have on that said, make sure you get off of it slowly. Right. Like, but there are things that help your sleep. All right. And when Trump passed the 2018 Farm Bill with Delta 8, right, it is phenomenal for insomnia. So if you have trouble sleeping, that Delta 8 is really good. All right. So again, support those guys that have bought into our mission. And like we always say, if it's veteran owned, buy it. I have like 6 different coffees in my closet right now. Right, I got Gruntworks, I got I got a Black Rifle, I got Barrage Coffee. I got Straight Shooter Coffee. He was a guest on our show. Like, support the veteran owned companies. It doesn't really matter. But then again, great guest, Daniel. I look forward to reading your book. And again, be productive, veterans. Be productive. Build each other up. All right, because we are a minority and we are disenfranchised. So when you act like an asshole, we're all assholes now. All right, so that's what we're saying. When you're in public and you're a veteran, it doesn't entitle you to anything. All right, so be that warrior that you once were. Don't lose that.
Nick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just?
Yeah, then we'll give Daniel the last word and then we'll get out of here.
Absolutely. And it caveats of what Daniel and Nick say. I joined the Army literally because I saw Band of Brothers and I wanted to be part of that fraternity. When you come home, think about guys like that. Think about when they came home. You want to know why they were rock stars? Because they were fucking rock stars. They came home and they fucking, yep, you guys just won World War II. Thank you so much. Okay, now go back to work. And that's exactly what they did. They didn't say, well, I'm entitled this because I did this. No, they were the greatest generation because they just went out and did what they were capable of. So do those guys proud. If you're proud of being a veteran, do all the veterans proud. From World War I back to us, make that a great label again. instead of something like, well, this guy's a veteran, look the fuck out. Like, be proud of it and make others say, hey, dude, I'll hire a veteran every single day of the week. You see what this guy does? Do that. You're capable of that. That's what Daniel's saying. But Daniel, I'm going to give you the last word. Has been the most fun I've had on a show in a long time, and Michigan lost. So thank you, Daniel, for taking my mind off of that.
Perfect. Well, no, it's been a pleasure to be on with you guys, and to the folks who are watching this again, again, be proud of your service. Be proud of if you're not a veteran, be proud of the service other people have rendered, and then let's work together to find ways to make sure that veterans thrive and that we support them in all their transitions. And that's what Wounding Warriors is about, and that's what my life's work is about.
Awesome. Really appreciate it, Daniel, having you on. And remember, check out the Stone Bet on Wednesdays. Check out our fight picks on Fridays. And then the Rob Robinson Roundtable Football, the Ring Knocker Radio. They talk about the service academies and the top 10 in college football. Still waiting to get Joe on there to get that enlisted side. So,
I'm sure his day just got a lot better because he's got a hard on for Harbaugh and Michigan lost. So I'm sure he's getting all jazzed up about Monday's show.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. I'm getting to it. We also have the first Wednesday of every month is we do our Veterans Mortgage Source financial advice. So you come on and ask questions. We had a really good one the first week of October, to where we answered a bunch of questions. And remember, we're not gonna sit there and spell out the whole thing for you when you come on there. We will give you his contact information. We'll kind of hit on it, but there's a lot of people asking questions. So again, financial security is another one of those things that kind of helps. All right. So if you can make the right decision, get pointed in the right direction, that'll be next Wednesday. And we'll have Zach Farkas or one of his team members on, and we'll talk about that stuff. And then when the ladies been busy. All right. Len and Leah, they've been transitioning states. So when they get back together, they'll come out with their Monday morning throw punches, and we'll get those back up on the show. And Mammoth, we haven't forgot about you. All right. Yeah. You're still number 4 in our hearts. Okay. So you can work up, you can work up a couple pegs by putting some more shows out. We really enjoy listening to that as well. We'll see you guys. See you guys on Wednesday, and we'll see you on Friday. And then next Saturday, Daniel, pleasure. See you guys later.
Thanks.
Where do we turn to veteran trash talk? Where do we turn to veteran trash talk? Where do we turn to veteran trash talk? Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. One day I'm okay, next day darkness. One day I'm okay, next day darkness. One day I'm okay, next day darkness. Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. Past is the past, so be forgiven. The past is the past, so be forgiven. The past is the past, so be forgiven. Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. Let's fight, don't quit, call that in order. Let's fight, don't quit, call that in order. Let's fight, don't quit, call that in order. Bravely every morning. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. Raise a glass for those we're missing. Raise a glass for those we're missing. Raise a glass for those we're missing. Bravely every morning. Bad days, rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bad days, good days, up we rises. Bravely every morning. That's what we do in veteran trash talk. That's what we do in veteran trash talk. That's what we do in veteran trash talk. Bravely every morning.